Greetings, blessed love. Give thanks for life, no? Health and strength and daily substances. Give thanks for the fresh air, no? The sunshine, the birds and the bees. Blessed love, Kush, Rueben Kush from Ethiopia. And I do give thanks and bless up each and every one. Hope they are them in a good health. Rastafari love and guidance to each and every one. Greetings, Rueben.
Greetings, Rasai, bless, Rastafari. Love. Greetings, family. Our praises unto the Most High, Emperor Haile Selassie I, the balance of Empress Menen, King of Kings, Lord of Lords, conquering Lion of the tribe of Judah. Bless I and I, make I and I wise and strong in this time. Bless those less fortunate than I and I. Giving thanks unto the Most High, Selassie I the Jah, Rastafari. Jah, Rastafari. Giving thanks, see?
Give thanks and praise. Yes, we sit here in a Rueben backyard, and today, I know say when a Rastafari was holy day is coming up, the birth of His Majesty, and to us a son is born, a child is given, wonderful counselor, Prince of Peace, Kings of Kings, Lords of Lords, conquering Lion of tribe of Judah, 23rd of July. But we'll go into that further on our reasoning. But today we want to talk about the EWF Ethiopia and things pertaining to Ethiopia, the
ancient culture.
The ancient culture, because there's a civilization all start in Ethiopia, And of lately I know a lot of ones not talking about Ethiopia. And there's the foundation of Rastafari is in Ethiopia. You know what I mean? Because they say the crown head is, you know what I mean? And I know say Ethiopia is still a part of I. All of Africa is part of I. So Ras Rueben, Kush, the I update that pertaining to Agwana, Ethiopia, the recent uprising, the EWF, the Rastafarian community, you know what I mean? About 12 tribe, EWF, Nyabindi. Let's give a full circumstance of what is really going on in Ethiopia. My lord.
Give thanks, Rastafari bless. I'll start, let me introduce myself still. Rueben Kush. I'm a member of the Ethiopian World Federation since 1981. 1981 I became a member in Birmingham, which was local number 111. I became a member of the organization because I was desirous of repatriating back home to Ethiopia. So that was the quest, and I've been on that quest ever since. I first repatriated to Ethiopia in 1992, and 1992 the pioneers in Shashamane were still alive. They were securing the land grant which was given to the Ethiopian World Federation in 1948. The Ethiopian World Federation is an organization that was established to aid Ethiopia in their time of need when the fascist Italians tried to conquer Ethiopia. Brethren and sisters in America and in the Caribbean were rallying support for Ethiopia. His Majesty was consulted when he was in exile in Bath, and he sent his nephew Malaku Bayan to America to establish an organization to help centralize the funds and to centralize the effort for Ethiopia. That organization was incorporated in 1937. It still functions today. Because of the work that was done by the organization, His Imperial Majesty granted 500 hectares of land in Shashamane for black peoples of the world to come home and repatriate and to develop the area. A lot of brethren and sisters have traveled to Ethiopia. A lot have seen the land grant, seen the conditions out there. But you've had ones from the early 50s decided to settle in Shashamane. A lot of them coming from Jamaica, some coming from America. The first settlers were Ethiopian World Federation members, and a lot of members who associated themselves with the Garveyite movement. Those were the first pioneers, and those pioneers were given lands in Shashamane. There was a lot of land available, and individual members of the organization were able to get their own individual plots of land. and a lot of them were doing mainly subsistence farming. It's a rural area, so they was getting on with that and bringing up their families, and everything was nice for them. In 1974, the Derg government, which is a communist government, became the rulers in Ethiopia, and a lot of things changed. A lot of land, a lot of properties were taken by the Derg. The land grant was also taken by the Derg, but what the Derg did, they respected the Rastafari community and the members of the Ethiopian World Federation. So the Derg government gave some lands back to the pioneers who were settled in Shashamane. And those are the lands, when I went to Ethiopia in 1992, those are the lands that I saw that were occupied by our pioneers. At that time, there was maybe about 12 to 15 what we call pioneers who had lands, built houses, had their families, were going to school, the children going to school and such like. But one of the problems that a lot of the pioneers had was visas to stay in the country. Before 1974, it wasn't a problem. After 1974, it became a real problem for ones to stay in Shashamane with the right kind of visa or residency, so that they could actually integrate into the local population in Ethiopia. It made it even worse for ones who came after the Derg regime was ousted in 1992. We found that, like myself, when I went to Ethiopia, it was very difficult to get the residency that was needed to work and to pay taxes and to contribute with the indigenous Ethiopians. So that caused a big problem. At that time, it was mainly EWF members and 12 tribe members who were on the land grant. A few years after that, the Nyabingi Ada started to send their members to Ethiopia, and they actually built a tabernacle as well. And then you had the Bubushanti house was sending their members to Shashamane also. So you've got a real mix of the Rastafari community in Shashamane, 12 tribes, Bubushanti, Nyabingi, and the EWF as an organization. There are times where, you know, there are doctrinal issues, but all in all, we try to get on with each other. We try to assist each other as we can along the way. And, you know, there are a lot of negatives that come out to the world about Shashamane, but there are also a lot of positive things. And I want to try to more concentrate on the positive things that has been achieved by Ainai's Rastafari in Shashamane. We've been able to get lands. The intention was always to defend the land grant. Some ones have gone there and brought land so that they could build their houses and bring their families and live the life that they desire to live. Some members were given lands by the pioneers themselves and were able to do the same thing. But what we found, right, if you buy a piece of land from an Ethiopian who was occupying parts of the land grant, it was very difficult to get the paperwork in your name, because we didn't have the status to be in the country. We didn't have the residency to be in the country. So a lot of monies was exchanged, a lot of paperwork was done, and we find that some of that paperwork is not really good to be used in court if the Ethiopians come back to claim the land, which they have done over the years. A lot of brethren and sisters have found themselves in court because the Ethiopians have come back and said, well, we didn't sell your land, we only rented your land, and now we want the land back. Ethiopia had a proclamation in 2011 which stated that all lands belong to the government, and if you have land, it's by lease, or if you have land that's been by inheritance, then you could claim that inheritance so that the land actually becomes more yours than lease. So these things did cause some problems in Ethiopia. With the land grant, we've always been agitating with the government to get the land grant back in the name of the Ethiopian World Federation, so that we can develop the land, encourage other brethren and sisters to come to the land grant and help to develop. We found ourselves in a situation where a lot of the court cases we have won, and there'll be one or two that are still pending now. And because of the land proclamation in 2011, a lot of Ethiopians are coming back now and trying to get those lands that they sold to INI. They're trying to get those lands back. The government in Shashamani administration, there is corruption there. There's corruption everywhere you go. So sometimes it's very difficult to win the court cases because a lot of them are managed by corrupted individuals, which makes it a lot more difficult for us. But one of the successes that we managed to achieve in Shashamani a few years ago was that the Ethiopian government started to recognize the Rastafari community as the Ethiopian diaspora. With that, they've been issuing the Rastafari community with residence IDs, national residents. So with that ID, it lasts for 5 years. It's the same ID that would be given to Ethiopian diaspora, Ethiopians who were born in Ethiopia or have Ethiopian parents who are living abroad. They would get this ID so that they could come to Ethiopia, they could get the benefits and invest in Ethiopia. So we were able to get the same ID. We haven't had to prove to the government that at least our grandparents are Ethiopians. So there has been some special dispensation given to the Rastafari community in Ethiopia. So now ones are able to have national Ethiopian residence IDs, last for 5 years. Benefits of that ID, you can come in and out of the country without a visa. You can work without a work permit. You can own property. And you can set up a business as a domestic investor. So those are the benefits that we now have as the Rastafari community. And the government hasn't just recognized the Ethiopian World Federation in giving this ID. It's recognized all Rastas. Anyone that says that they're a Rasta, they can go to immigration and get this ID. The requirements, there are some requirements that the Ethiopian government is insisting. One of them being that you have to be residing in Ethiopia for more than 10 years. And you have to be able to prove that that you've done so. We've been able to break it down so that it can be now anywhere between 3 to 5 years. If you're married to an Ethiopian and you have the documents to show it, then you can apply for your ID that way. If you're working with an international organization, which a lot of ones, especially in the international schools, they can get letters from their employees and they can use that to also gain their ID. Those members who have businesses, and their businesses have been going on for a certain amount of years, they can also use their investment and business licenses to also get the ID. So it's spread across the board, and we've been able to take full advantage of that and trying to make sure as many of the Rastafari community in Ethiopia get that ID. We have the Rastafari settlement in Shashamani on the land grant. There was also a lot of Rastas who live in Addis, who mainly work, professionals who live in Addis Ababa. And then you have a group of brethrens and sisterins up in the north called Bardar. So all those three communities have been able to gain their IDs from the government.
I've heard you, Rueben. How long has this been going on? It's been what, 5 years?
No, it's about 3 years now.
3 years?
Yeah, 3 years.
And what has the response been so far?
The response has been good. At the moment, the reality is that at any given time, you're talking about 800 to 900 Rastafari brethren in Ethiopia. A percentage of them being under 18. So I would say up till now, I'd say about maybe 700, 800, about 700 individuals with their families have got the ID so far. A lot of brethren have been able to travel out of Ethiopia to visit family and to raise funds, which they are now doing, where they couldn't do before.
Because when I first came to Ethiopia, you remember the first time?
Yes,
you received me well.
Yes.
Yeah, my first time in Ethiopia. I didn't know Rueben Kush there until I landed in Ethiopia, Addis Ababa. And it was a wonderful time there. Rueben Kush invited me to his house, and and that was my first time. And to your business. Talk
Yeah,
about your
yeah,
business there as
yeah.
a big engineer.
Well,
So,
there's a lot of things to talk, right?
yeah.
So on investment, what I try to do is to encourage ones to come to Ethiopia to be entrepreneurs and set up businesses. I myself have my own company with other brethren and sisters. We came together and we set up an engineering company. The government gave us a piece of land and we built a factory on there. We manufacture different types of machines, food processing, agricultural machines, air filter units. We do general fabricating, and we make machines custom to designs that individuals want. So we're at the top end of the engineering manufacturing sector. And we've been in business for, say, nearly 17 years. We're still in business. We're doing quite well.
I still have students there.
Yeah. We've been able to, we have a staff of 9. One of them we sent to university to get his PhD and to get his master's in business associations in all types of business. Then we have another 3 trainees that came to us. I personally trained them, and then we sent them to college to get further training. So they're fully trained engineers now. So we have given back to Ethiopia by employing Ethiopians, training them, and giving them the best start. And they still work with us. They get a decent wage. They do a decent job, and they are quite happy with us being there and what we've done for them. So investment is one of the things that I take very, very seriously. I find that a lot of ones come to Ethiopia with the intention to enjoy, the vibe, spiritual and physical, gain that balance. But at the same time, they come with the intention to get information so that they can go back to their respective countries, plan, prepare, and then come forward. But what a lot of ones do, they'll come for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. They get so emotional about the whole trip, they don't actually get the information that they came to get. And what I try to do is to furnish them with that information so that when they go to their respective countries, they can sit down, look at the opportunities that Ethiopia offers, and make a really proper choice on whether they want to repatriate to Ethiopia. They can get to understand how they can actually fit in. I try to make sure ones have that information. One thing I would say to anybody out there wanting to get more information about Ethiopia, if you go onto the Ethiopian Embassy website, whether for USA or for England, you'll get all the information there pertaining to Ethiopia. Any question that you've had in your head about Ethiopia, you will get the answers there. What the Ethiopian government has been doing over the last few years is to try to encourage Ethiopians to come back home to help develop the country. So they've given a lot of concessions for ones to do so. And all that information is in, can be found in the Ethiopian embassy sites. So information like what you can invest in, what you can't invest in. You can get duty-free facilities. You can apply for land. The price of electricity, the price of water, land prices, general information about Ethiopia, shopping, transportation, accommodation, prices, places that you can actually contact. All that information is on the website for Ethiopia. So I would encourage all ones who are interested in Ethiopia to get that information and do a bit of research and study and think out the box, I say. Africa has got a real problem with unemployment. So anyone who, say, if you're a receptionist here in England or an admin worker here in England and you're receiving a certain salary, you're not going to go to Ethiopia and get that kind of job, right? Foreigners and anyone without an Ethiopian passport is classed as a foreigner. So foreigners have to have a PhD or the equivalent of a PhD to actually get a job. Whoever employs you has to show the Ministry of Labour that they couldn't have employed an Ethiopian for the same job. And then the employee is encouraged to get an Ethiopian to train up that Ethiopian to take the job that they've given to a foreigner. So it's not the easiest thing to do to go and get a job if you don't have the right qualifications. So I always say, think out the box. 4 or 5 brethren who are serious about going to Ethiopia can work together. They can put their funds together, and they can decide on the business that they want to do, and they don't have to have all the money up front at one time. And it's not as expensive as what ones actually think. You can do things in stages. So, for example, 4 or 5 brethren and sisters get together. They put a certain amount of money on the first take, and then they agree, say every 6 months or every 3 months, they put a certain amount of money in to develop the company that they want to establish. One of them can be come to Ethiopia, do all of that work, and then when the others are ready to pack up and go to Ethiopia, they have a ready-made business. So it's not what you do, it's how you do it. And this is why I say we have to kind of think out the box. Sometimes what people feel, well, they've got to get a whole heap of money together and then travel. That's not the case. If you do your research properly, you can plan better so that finances doesn't become a problem in the terms of running out of finance. You find that ones who don't plan properly run out of money because they're not able to get work, they're not able to do business properly, so they can't bring in an income. And if you can't bring in an income, then you're left on your savings, and your savings run out. All right. So those are just a few pointers I just want to put to ones. But Ethiopia is a beautiful place, a very, very beautiful place. There's so much things to see in Ethiopia in terms of culture. The Ethiopians are a very humble people. They have their own customs, which sometimes it's a little difficult to get to grips with some of the culture that they have. It clashes with the liberty of Ainai's Rastafari too on certain areas. But we do embrace the Ethiopian culture, and the Ethiopians embrace us. We also embrace the Ethiopians. We're able to do a lot of things that we would do in the West here. For example, music, reggae music is very, very popular in Ethiopia. There are quite a few sound systems in Ethiopia. We do have sound clashes from time to time. Live music is very popular. There are several groups that have, do live music, and they all get work. We do our own promotions.
Last time we had some session in.
Yes.
What year was it again?
I can't remember well, there's been various clubs that you've attended.
Yeah. We did some session there.
Yeah.
Right.
Higher Hullet was one, and then on Bowley Road as well.
Bowley Road, yes.
So Rasai can testify to the sound system vibes out there. He's come out there. He's tried to take on Goodwill Sound, but not successful. But he tries, you know what I mean? And we embrace him still, over. So promotions is a strong area for income. What we're engaged in at the moment is trying to get the relevant licenses now that we have our IDs, so that we can put on bigger shows and bring in bigger artists. What we find is that the Ethiopians have kind of took that kind of market, and they bring in big artists. But the contracts that these big artists have, they're only in Ethiopia for maybe 4 or 5 days. They'll do the show and they fly back out. Sometimes we're not able to get access to them, able to bring them down to Shashamani, give them the full experience of Ainai as a Rasta community, so that they can go back and promote Ainai community. So we want to change that. We want to make all the artists fully understand the real reality of Ethiopia.
I want to ask you a question pertaining to the artists then, because from Bob Marley and Dennis Brown time, there's been a lot of artists rising now. You have young artists. Have they been investing in Ethiopia? No, to be honest. I can say the only artist that's actually invested in Ethiopia and helped ones in Ethiopia is Tony Rebel. Tony Rebel sent Mother Earth and Ainigos, helped them to reach to Ethiopia and helped to support them. Other than that, all the other artists, Prodigy, I went to see Prodigy. Prodigy was in one day and he was out the next.
He didn't really get a
I heard that
chance.
even one big artist, I think, Jonah, they just stay in hotels and they don't flex with it.
Yeah, Luciano has been another one that has integrated with the Rastafari community. He's been out there on our request and invitation for various shows. He done a single with one of Ethiopia's top reggae artists, which was very popular in Ethiopia. So Luciano, I would say, has really assisted I and I as a community in promoting not just outside of Ethiopia, but also inside of Ethiopia as an artist. So he's done a real good job there.
I see it very distasteful, some big artists with big finance who sing about Ethiopia and Africa. And a lot of them find it hard to even invest in Africa, because it's like Ethiopia is, them say Jamaica is the mark of the road. And, Ethiopia is the place where like every Rastafari should at least take it once in their lifetime to travel to. And artists them sing about Ethiopia, this and Africa. Enough of them make a lot of money. But yet still a man not put back into the culture where them are read from. Them don't do that. I don't see why. I don't know why the artists them find it difficult. Because the prophecy tell us if you give 1/10 of your spoil, man. People buy a record, will listen to your music. It's nothing to give 1/10 of your spoil. It's like Thanksgiving. These reggae artists, some of them, I don't know.
Well, you see, the thing is, Rasta, you have to know what you're giving your money to and what you're giving your money for. All right, and that's been the biggest problem. All right, because you can be an artist, or not just an artist, but you can be just an individual that has some spare money. If you don't see the right cause to give that money to, then you're not going to give it, and that's been the problem. And I say that because one of the positive things in Shashamani, for example, we have an organization called the Ancient of Days, and I'm one of the organizers for that organization.
I'm just going to say, I be a witness to see you walk and deal with elders. Yeah. We go around, we beard, carry food, carry stuff, all type of thing. I be a witness to them things. So there's a lot of things to do. Yeah. Even donate, fix up a school, something. There's a lot of things really you can donate to.
Yeah, but things have to be transparent, all right? So, for example, with the Ancient of Days, which is a program for the elders, we make sure that if the elders need operations, we raise the money. If they need to pay for prescriptions, we'll pay for it. We make sure that they have regular checkups. We'll do activities for them. We'll take them on trips and stuff like that. And we reach out to the Rastafari community worldwide for assistance, and we do get assistance. Don't get me wrong, we do get assistance. But on what Rasai is reasoning to take it to the next level, it's very difficult, first of all, to actually get to the artists, because most of them have managers, and you have to contact the managers and say if there's a fundraising that we want to raise some money for. If you contact the managers, the kind of prices that I'll give you an example. We contacted Bonnie Whaler to come and do a show for us as the community to help with our fundraising, and the managers wrote back to say that it's 20 odd tickets that we have to find, and they have to have this 5-star accommodation, and then they have to have in the dressing rooms, they have to have this, that, and this kind of drink and this kind of food. You know what I mean? And you find it was the same with Buju Banton. When we tried to get to Buju Banton, their manager sent back, the request and how much it's going to cost. And we just can't afford that kind of thing. You know what I mean?
It's like
if we could get to if we could get to the artists one aware, right, then it's easier. Sizzler, Buju Banton, then they would come. So they need to take the lead from people like Luciano, Tony Rebel, Muta Baruka, Uton Green, Yusuf Tafari. Those individuals as artists in their own right, made the decision to come to Ethiopia without no management behind them per se. So it was easier to get them to understand what we're up against, and actually get them to, to say, yes, we'll support. They've done shows out there. Tony Rebel, Muta Baruka, Uton Green, Yosef Tafari. They came to Ethiopia during the centenary of the Battle of Adwa, and they done shows. You know what I mean? And these shows were well attended shows, Jehovah's. But from them times till now, it's all about the management. So if we wanted to get Chronics to come to Ethiopia now, we'd have to go through his management. Chronics and some of the artists should go outside of their management.
Chronics has been in Ethiopia.
Yeah, he's been to Ethiopia. But they have to go outside of their management so that we can have access to them. And that's what the artists them need to be focused on. Not so much, well, you want me to come and perform, contact my manager. No, we're in Ethiopia as a Rasta community. We want to have direct contact with you. You understand? We're not telling you to give us all your riches. No, it's not that. It's to come and help to promote Ethiopia on a balance, where it's not just you in the West singing about Ethiopia, singing about black liberation, and then you're not able to come to assist in the liberation. You understand? So it's to get that balance. And if there are any artists out there who are listening, then please take that opportunity to step outside of your management when it comes to promoting Ethiopia and promoting the black liberation, which we've been promoting.
I must say, Ruben, Ethiopia is the most ancient. Yes, Aksum City is where the Ark of the Covenant still resides today, 2021. You know what I mean? His Majesty was born in Harar, Ege Seguwa. You know what I mean? His Majesty said, we and the Ethiopians are blood brothers. And it's not until I went to Harar when I speak to an elder, he tell me there's a mountain in Harar, in the Jamaruk mountain. You know what I mean? Where the Ethiopians and the English fight a war up there, and enough of the slaves them were captured in the Jamaruk mountain was taken by the British. Because the British came into Ethiopia was one time as well, but and even though they didn't conquer, they took slaves out of Ethiopia. They took slaves out of Ethiopia because they tried to invade Ethiopia. The British, the Germans, the Italians, more than one people tried to invade Ethiopia. They are lost. But the British took some people from the Jamaruk mountain. And from the Jamaruk mountain, we understand some of them was brought to the Caribbean.
Yeah, I mean, wherever England went and so-called conquered, they took people out.
Yeah, they took people out.
They had, for example, Magdala. Magdala was an area with the church, the castle in Magdala. The British went there. They looted manuscripts, which are still in the British museums today. You know what I mean? And at the same time, they did take out, Ethiopians. One of them being a prince who was brought